Yo, what's going on, guys? And today, just readjusted myself because I didn't like where I was sitting. We'll be doing the Atlanta Hawks off-season preview. I'm actually happy that we waited to do this one due to the fact that Mr. Landry Fields was fired, and it's all interesting. I'm not going to say that he did a good job, nor did he do a bad job. I don't think Quinn Snyder should be on the hot seat. He's had only 2 full seasons. I also feel like he was kind of bamboozled in the sense that, like, he was probably sold on one vision and it was different. But what I think some people have led is the new GM, Onsi Saleh. The way that I understand this was 18 months ago, Nick Ressler. So Travis Schleck didn't want to trade for DeJounte Murray. The owner's son was playing, front office, forces them to trade for DeJounte. Assistant GM at the time was recently hired, a scout turned assistant GM within a few months, Landry Fields supports the DeJounte Murray deal, which then enables him to get the general manager job. Schleck gets moved to an advisory role and then gets pushed out. And they hire Kyle Korver to be the assistant GM, who I saw Kyle Korver like 2 weeks ago in Portland when we were at Nike Hoop Summit. He's still clearly with the Hawks, it seems like. Now, Landry Fields is a really nice guy, and I think Landry did now, this is what somebody brought up. Was these moves that we saw starting from last year in December to now where, bringing in or being able to flip DeJounte for Dyson Daniels and getting the picks back, so it ends up being a net neutral. You also look at this as, I'm trying to think, did we have another one that they did? The young guys that they brought in, obviously, Garrison Matthews, Krejci, even though Krejci has been there, Krejci has been there had come back technically, and just doing small moves around the middle. And I know Kobe Buffkin, they couldn't have planned him being just always hurt, but Jalen Johnson and Quinn Snyder, they chose Kyle Korver, I think, is the one who brought in Quinn Snyder. So it's all these interesting things. So was it Onsi or was it Mr. Landry Fields doing these good moves? Someone brought that up. And the worst part is they didn't hire a president of basketball operations. So it's almost like a smug, slap in the face to Landry. They're like, okay, we didn't hire a president of basketball operations when you're around. Well, it's a slap in the face to Saleh and a slap in the face to Fields, basically saying if the problem with Fields was that there was no oversight or experience. And now with Saleh, they're like, we trust you, but we're going to bring in a guy to be the adult in the room because we don't fully trust you in a way. It's kind of weird, that situation. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, but let's break it down. We'll talk about everything. So obviously the Hawks are embarking on a significant offseason with the front office change. We knew a few days ago they dismissed their general manager, Landry Fields, and promoted assistant general manager, Onsi Saleh. And currently, the Hawks initiated a search for president of basketball operation, which they're going. Elton Brand is who's the guy they're going. And I have nothing wrong with Elton Brand. How do I put this? It's just very weird because it all feels like it was almost pre-decided. And that's the one that I find the most odd. Since retiring, Elton Brand's the guy who been in charge of the Sixers. And I know Daryl Morey's the president, but it's very interesting. You could say his moves were hit or miss, but now Onsi Saleh was a part of the Golden State Warriors team, and he contributed to the 2022 championship team. He's from the Spurs, and this was a team they actually brought a lot of Spurs executives in, where he was the director of strategy, and he was also basketball strategy for the Warriors. His expertise lies in salary cap management, analytics, and organizational strategy, which my thought from there is more than likely and this is a quote from GM Mike Dunleavy praising Saleh's ability to connect with stakeholders. He's just a good dude. He's added to our culture, not only the front office, but the entire organization. And with a projected decent amount of cap space, I think they have some decisions to make, from re-signing guys. This is one of the third worst team in opponents' points per game. and they need to assess what they're going to do. I think they have a core in Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, Zaccharie, Risacher, Jalen Johnson, and Onyeka Okongwu. And what we talked about earlier was it a fact that the Hawks' decision to restructure the front office probably reflects the belief that, okay, thanks, Landry, you got us here, but we want to go to that next step. And I think they believe that this offseason is a pivotal one in determining the Hawks' direction with potential roster moves and decisions that could really affect if they're stuck in mediocrity or they can really get into a contending situation. And I don't know if they believe Landry could do that, and they wanted somebody like Onsi to do that. And this is a team that last year under Quinn Snyder was the second best passing team in the league, top 5 in points per game. They actually were an aggressive defense in terms of second in steals, top 12 in blocks. They grabbed almost 45 rebounds per game, which was top 15. And the problem is their defense sucked. Their opponents shot third best field goal percentage against them, third best 3-point percentage, and they turned the ball over like crazy, and they were fouling like so bad that it was just hurting them in late games. And that's the thing. They could score a lot of points, but they'd give up even more, giving them a negative net differential. And their opponents shot better than league average against them, and they just had bad perimeter defense outside of Dyson Daniels. So, yes, they might have had a passing advantage, but their turnovers made them a huge liability in close games. So, in layman's terms, the Hawks are a dangerous offense. They can win shootouts, they have top-tier ball movement, and they play phenomenal in transition. But their lapses on defense, their constant turnovers, and their spotty, poor perimeter defense outside of their few good defenders hold them back from becoming a real playoff threat. And now that if you look at the first off, Mo Gay, love him. That guy needs more playing time. Larry Nance is obviously on his way out. I think they should probably think about flipping Kobe Buffkin. We got to see some Don Barlow as the season closed. I wasn't bad about that. Vik Krejci is a guy that I really like. 20 minutes a night, 7 points, 3 assists, almost 43% from 3. We got George Niang for another year. He's a stretch forward who's going to open up the floor for the slashing guards. Look, Karis LeVert was a shot creator off the bench. He played, 26 minutes a night, 15 points a game, 3 assists for them. I don't know if he saves. Another guy who surprised me this year was Keenan Wallace. He's a backup point guard who showed some defensive chops and some playmaking ability. Pretty solid. And then, the one thing with Terrence Mann is I think he worked for them, almost 39% from 3, 2 assists, 10 points about, but it's the contract. And if we could just flip that, I would like that. Now, Clint Capella is on the way out, so we don't really need to talk about him. Starting center Onyeka Okongwu, 13.5 points, 9 rebounds, 57% from the field. Jalen Johnson, he was the breakout player until that knee injury took him out of the year. 19 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. Zaccharie, the rookie 3-and-D wing, who's really just got better. He's averaging 18 points to close out the year, but 13 and 4 on the season, 35% from 3. And then, a guy who should be considering most improved player of the year in Mr. Dyson Daniels, who's grown as a secondary playmaker, one of the best defenders in the league, and the team's offensive engine in Trae Young, and he's just being an elite pick and roll creator. So if we look at their future draft picks and this year's upcoming draft, I think if they can, I don't think they should worry about making a pick. They have 2 picks this year. This is what I've said. If you can use one of those picks, the package, and get somebody, do it. I think it would be great. And I think that's like the biggest thing. So I got a message from my boss. And yeah, that's basically all I had here. I think there's just some things that they just need to figure out in terms of this all being, I don't know. I think it's definitely interesting to see what's going to be the best for this year's upcoming draft for them. I've said if they could flip this and get a player, do you think they could get Kevin Durant? They almost traded for Brandon Ingram. And what I mean if they can get Kevin Durant is they just don't have the salary to shed it. So I take that back. But if they could get, and it's not And the reason why I said KD was supposedly he's going to be really cheap. I'm just saying, if they can get something, for example, if Bradley Beal was cut, would you want Bradley Beal like on a mid-level exception off the bench for this team? Like, I feel like they would be the type of team to get a veteran that people have said is like not wanted, and then they bring him off the bench and he just goes off. I do just want a third fiddle here. And I really like the idea of Brandon Ingram. Now, I think if Zion really gets traded, they should go in for that. Now, I do think Zion and Jalen Wilson on the floor, not Jalen Wilson, Jalen Johnson on the floor together is going to be a bit hard, but it'll be fun to watch. On your thoughts, that's the preview. We'll do predictions in a few weeks. Bye.